I know I just dropped. It looks like I just dropped. Have no clue. I know I just dropped my signal. Drop some kind of like, hey, Facebook, are y'all still there? I know I see it. I see that I'm coming through. Let me know if y'all can see me. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I don't have a clue. Everything's plugged in. All right, cool. Hey, D Bartlett. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Coming back on Facebook. Of course, this is spicy. There you go. Come on back, y'all. Come on back. All right. So we were just listening. You didn't miss anything. Luther Reynolds was just continuing to discuss what's going on. He's a little emotional here. And so the details are a little bit, thank you for coming back, y'all. Thank you for your patience. So again, we're just watching a little bit of Luther Reynolds' reaction. Hey. Don't know what's up. We're good. All right. Ish happens. Grassroots. All right, Luther Reynolds, let's just keep playing a little bit.
I stand here with our council member, Robert Mitchell, who's on this corner in this community every day, born and raised here, been here his whole life, and Edward Jones and other community members. I literally, just today, from 1 till about 4 o'clock, was in a meeting in North Charleston with Representative Gilliard and a variety of other leaders talking about violence. We just talked about that. No sooner did I leave the parking lot, I got a phone call that we had 5 shot right here in this community.
5 people shot.
Or feet from where we're standing right now. 5 people shot, 2 critically. So what does that mean to me? That means more grieving mothers. And if you've been out on any of these crime scenes, you've heard the sound of a wailing mother's voice. And I promise you, if you've heard it, you'll never get it out of your mind. And I met with a mother today, Monica Jefferson, who spoke very eloquently about her son Malcolm, who was killed on his 18th birthday, and he was born in 1995, and he was killed about 8 years ago.
So what we're seeing here, let me thank you for coming back, y'all. Y'all know with grassroots, come on. Plus, when I start spitting fire, that's when the man comes in and he be like, nah, she can't talk on it. Let me stop. Nah, but so what you're seeing here, and I'm not trying to take away from the seriousness of what we're discussing. Y'all know my mind just does that. But what's important to see here is that the police chief is taking something that just occurred in real time, taking something that just occurred in this community and using it to create a narrative. He is politicizing these deaths. He's politicizing this violence. And that's what he's doing. He's politicizing it. He's trying to. If you don't agree with politicizing, you damn sure know he's framing this a certain way, and this is going to undergird his other arguments. Where he's going to, first of all, he has to do 2 things right now. He has to appear and sound tough on crime, while also not sounding racist, right? He has to do that. I'm gonna consider that one thing. So he has to appear to be tough on crime without giving the impression that there's a racial issue there or anything like that. And he's trying not to racialize the violence that just occurred, right? The other thing he has to do, and that's for the CVB, that's for the public, that's the public faith, CVB's faith, the business district. They all need him. They want him. They've told him, yo, you got to come out tough on crime, right? The other thing he's trying to do is make sure that he goes on record with this very strong message, so that, right, spoke very eloquently. I know you caught that, Meg. Mother spoke very eloquently, right? So all the other thing he's trying to do is, I almost lost my chain of thought. Other thing he's trying to do is make sure that moving forward, police continue to have access to more funding. Police continue to have more access to more toys and whatnot. By toys, I mean militarized vehicles, other type of weaponry, body cams that they won't use, stuff like that. So he's doing 2 things, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's savvy, right? In his position, it really isn't really much for me to continue to watch. It's not really anything. It's not too much value in continue to watch that presser. We can do this though. We can watch the story from News 2.
Violent night in Charleston. 7 people recovering from gunshot wounds after at least two separate shootings in the downtown area.
We have a map of where police say these shootings took place. At least one person was found at the Shires apartments, and a second victim was brought to the Medical University of South Carolina with gunshot wounds. In
downtown Charleston, 5 other people were shot at public housing complex, the one on Hanover and Johnson Streets. Police.
I was downtown yesterday and went to Redux. Shout out Redux, have our opening exhibition. Our exhibition, the Friends of Gather Creek exhibition, opens on Friday. And I heard all these sirens yesterday. It was a lot going on yesterday evening for sure. So I was around and I heard some of this.
Chief Luther.
What up, Chris Tittle?
Reynolds says something needs to happen right now.
News 2's Riley Benson joins us live from the police department. And Riley, Chief Reynolds says enough is enough.
Yeah, Brendan, Carolyn, an emotional Chief Reynolds speaking out tonight, calling for a stop to violent crime and gun violence across his community. He says too many lives have been lost senselessly, and he's tired of telling families their loved ones have been killed. Now, community members say the rise in gun violence is a scary trend.
What is going on today or whatever is very tragic or whatever. 5 people got shot or whatever.
And to Chris, let me say, Chris Tittle, I know you're being like facetious, and I want to continue on that. So Chris Tittle on Twitch, y'all, for those who can't see on Facebook, Chris Tittle wrote, give us, when I said when Luther Reynolds was trying to make sure that he frames what happened last night in a way that's going to make his arguments for more resources, more guns, more this, more that, more weapons of mass destruction. Chris made, sarcastic will say, yeah, give us more tanks because that will stop the violence. And that's exactly that, right? So this violence occurred and the police do what? The violence occurs and the police do what? They respond after the violence occurred. Police don't prevent crime. Get all those shows out your head, all those police procedurals, all that propaganda, even the ones I like to watch, I watch a Criminal Intent, here and there. I watch a SVU here and there, right? But get all that. That's not real life. That's not how prosecutors work. That's not how the DA works. That's not how crime is solved. Crime is not solved in an hour. They're not using all this DNA science to get, right? Police don't prevent crime. They respond to it. So if we know that, why aren't we asking critical questions like, well, what can we do to stop the actual violence from occurring? That's just something that came to mind, even though Chris and I, we're on the same page. Yeah, you can give the cops more guns. You can give them more tasers. You can give them more tanks. You can give them more SWAT gear, right? You can give them more helicopters. You can give them all of that. Is that really going to prevent crime from happening? Is that going to prevent the next shooting? Is that going to stop the influx of guns coming into this state, pouring into this state? Right? Is that going to close the Charleston loophole that Dylan Roof was able to slip through and murder nine churchgoers? Right? Right? So the framing has to be challenged because they're going to come back and say, well, we need more guns. Why? Oh, you saw what happened last night. Yeah, you're right. No, you're not right. 1 + 1 does not equal 6. And so we have to make sure that we push back on that.
5 victims, 2 critically injured in a shooting. Community members begging for it to stop. Charleston Police Chief Luther Reynolds says violent crime is increasing at a deadly rate.
There's a lack of accountability. There's a lack of outcomes, and I'm tired of it. It's getting old.
This righteous indignation. I'm tired of it. It's getting old. Your budget has gone up consistently. Last year you had, the Trump administration and the AG's office was very helpful to you. They made sure to help you prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. You got one protester locked up for 2 years in a federal prison because you had the Trump administration and Attorney General Barr, you had direct access. Boy, bye, Kia said on Twitch, right? Like an angry dad, right? Lack of accountability. Yeah, so this is the thing too. Chief Reynolds, hold up on all the real-time analysis, because that's not really your strong suit. You know, this is coming from a man that suggested that they go and consult Chick-fil-A to get tips on how to be better customer service. I don't know. I don't know what they went to Chick-fil-A, or they proposed to go to Chick-fil-A to figure out how they can be better at customer service, because that's going to stop crime. That's going to, right? So you can chill with the real-time analysis, because that's not really your strong suit. And you're just saying, yes, these shootings are real. They're devastating our community. They need to stop. I will definitely be a stop the violence person. I'm not pro-violence. I'm pro, okay, we got a problem, but let's get some real solutions. Let's get some real solutions, and not all these cosmetic and nonsense solutions that we've largely accepted. No more panels, no more community panels with just police sympathizers on not panels, but these committees and commissions, right? Where you just listen to the police say, I tried. Oh, okay. Did you try this? Yeah, we did. Oh, okay. We need more than this. These committees and commissions that have no authority, that have no power, no real influence. It's just an exercise in futility. We need to stop with all this ceremony and really get some real solid solutions.
I'm tired of being at these scenes. I'm tired of talking to mothers who are losing their children.
This issue of guns and the use of them in our streets, it's just not acceptable.
The result.
So also Mayor Tecklenburg came in, and followed suit. He has to He has to do two things. He has to not racialize violence. So you flank yourself with the black councilman whose district that falls in, right? So you have your black city council person next to you, right? So you don't racialize the violence, but you gotta sound tough, because CVB and Mike Seekins and his people and all of them gonna say, oh, look, he's soft on crime. And the other thing, he has to maintain the confidence of his constituency, who's already on his neck following this, right? I want you to understand though, y'all know where this area is at, right? Y'all know where this area is at. Y'all see how that street look, right? You see who lived there, right? I want you to ask yourself, why are these violent incidences happening here? Why are they happening here? Why are they happening in this pocket of poverty on the peninsula? Just ask yourself that. I don't have the answer. I'm just beg that question though.
Result of just one shooting that happened hours after Chief Reynolds, law enforcement leaders, and elected
Chris Tittle on Twitch, you said, and of course they're finding a way to center himself like he's the victim. Absolutely.
Officials met to discuss ways to keep crime off the streets.
Gangs, guns, and things like retaliations.
What gangs? What gangs? What gangs? I've been hearing this gang thing for a minute. What gang? I don't really ever get any. I'm gonna go back and read Steve Garrison's reporting, or maybe even Greg Yee before he moved off the crime beat. But what gangs?
Drugs, and we're getting younger and younger people.
Chief Reynolds says repeat offenders are a big part of the problem.
Listen to this part.
He says he can only do so much, and he needs the community's help.
They continue the crime and the victimization and the violence.
Evelyn.
Somebody needs to step up and keep these people in jail.
From community.
Whoa, so that's not the solution. But I expect the cop to say that, right? So my again, let me just go back for those who just came in, and I know my live stream dropped out for a second inexplicably, but again, we need to resist the framing. We need to resist the framing that, oh, this happened, the violence happened, the response is more policing, more violence from the state, an increased budget for the police. Those are that we have to resist that. And we have to, again, go back to the Vox article. Murders are up, crime is not. What's going on? The U.S. is in its most violent period in the 21st century. There are some things we know and some things we don't know, right? Then we scroll down, right? Last year, Last year, the United States saw the biggest increase in the murder rate in decades. The estimated total number of homicides rose to levels not seen since the late 1990s. We right back in the 90s. Exactly what I thought when I heard the story last night. All right. Even as the overall crime rate declined, so far the spike has continued in 2021. Murders are up 15% so far this year compared to the same period last year, based on the data from the United States cities collected by crime analyst Jeff Asher. That's what we know. What we don't know yet is why it's happening, and we don't know. Again, this was just published last week, July 21st, right? The rise in murders, along with the rise in shootings, is reflected not just in statistics, but in real events. Over the weekend, the sound of gunfire, and even this past weekend here, so this was the previous weekend. Over the weekend, the sound of gunfire sent baseball players, and fans into a panic at the Remember the Nationals game last week? And you saw those fans jumping out their seats and getting into the dugout, right? It was a wild scene at a Nationals game. I never thought I'd see that, right? At National Stadium in Washington, D.C., the night before, D.C.'s mayor condemned a drive-by shooting that killed a six-year-old. Meanwhile, a total of 12 mass shootings from coast to coast. I want to say that again. Meanwhile, a total of 12 mass shootings from coast to coast left 11 dead and 49 injured in the United States, right? Year-to-year fluctuations in crime and violence can and do happen, but the size of the murder spike has led to broader national attention. The increase is now part of an ideological proxy war, and this is what Police Chief Reynolds can't give you. This is what he won't give you, especially in a city with this hugely complicated racial history here in Charleston, especially in a city where they literally let Proud Boys, Lightfoot militia, armed insurrectionists run through the streets and take up space and get permits and hold rallies on the steps of the Custom House, especially in a city like that. This is what we don't talk about, the ideological wars and the race wars that they literally have said to my face that they want to start, right? That's another component, right? And I also want to key in on something that was said in that other prior paragraph. Shootings, right? Murder, shootings, right? We have to make a distinction there. All right, let me see what's up. All right, I'm all good. Justin on Twitch, you said that sounds like the accountability they don't want to shoulder. Oh, you're talking about Same Facade. Same Facade says something else. Violence tends to increase where socioeconomic struggles and poverty. Same Facade is saying this on Twitch. I'm sorry, I missed this. Violence tends to increase where socioeconomic struggles and poverty have the hardest impact. So maybe try alleviating the poverty and help communities hardest hit by the economic downturns. Sound like a plan to me. I think that's what we're getting to. Evelyn, you went on to say, hello, do we even have gangs? To my point too, I need to hear the name of the gangs, the affiliations. I need to hear, because you can't just say gangs to me and I'm just gonna like, oh yeah, you're right. No, what gangs? What? Based on what? Is it territorial? Is it block by block? Is it race gangs? What is it? Right? Kia, you said people are tired of white people taking over their community. Pandemic, stress, low incomes, etc. Thank you, Kia. Absolutely. D Bartley, you said, oh no. Did I get lost again? I don't know. You said, oh no. Please don't. Oh no, what? I don't know what you're saying. Oh no. No, sir, that's not the solution. That's what you said, Justin. Jessica, you went on to say, just say you're an ineffective chief. Absolutely. Sounds like that. Sounds like a plan to me, right? All right. Here we go. I'm going to keep going. And like you said, Justin, what Same Facade said, exactly that accountability piece. But we have to, like, when a police chief goes up there and says, the violence, what kind of violence? What kind of violence are we seeing? What kind of crime are we seeing, right? Year to year fluctuations in crime and violence can happen and do, but the size of the murder spike has led to a broader national attention. The increase is now part of an ideological proxy war, leading to conflicting opinions. And I get it. I guess I kind of took some liberties with when I saw ideological, but I get it. Now they're saying ideological proxy war, leading to conflicting opinions even within parties on what to do about the increase in murders, and plenty of finger pointing over whether the pandemic, protests over police, or guns are the blame. I would say it's all three. The protests, we know that there's been fewer police. We know that police have been retiring and leaving the force in droves. Hello, Harry Griffin's arresting officer. We know police are leaving for a number of reasons, right? They're leaving the police force, right? So that's one part, perhaps. The pandemic, to Kia's point, economic issues and stress, especially if you live in a place like Charleston where $1 million condos are going up every day, and yet more and more poor black people are being pushed to places like a Somerville and like a Goose Creek, like a Monk's Corner, right? We know that too, right? And we know also we have a problem with guns here. We have a huge problem with guns here. I'm all Second Amendment. I'm all for it. Keep your guns. I don't give a fuck. Have a gun, pop off. But we got too many guns, and y'all and we know who like to play with the big guns, right? We got go ahead an issue with guns. We got an issue with the Charleston loophole, right? It's interesting. I haven't seen really Clyburn out in front of this as much. He was a few months ago when certain bills were up, but I haven't seen Clyburn out in front of this because, you know, that whole closing the loophole, that's what he wants that to be part of his legacy. All right. We don't really know with certainty what's behind the rise. All three of those factors likely played a role. Like I said, I agree. And there may even be some unknown factor that researchers won't notice for years. The theory that higher levels of lead in the environment cause higher crime violence in the 1960s to 1990s took decades to get widespread attention. What? Higher levels of lead? Really? Higher levels of lead in the environment cause higher crime? For real? All right, I know that. All right. I'm gonna bounce out of that. There's a piece by Guardian. I did not read this, but this framing was interesting as well from the Guardian. It says, how bad is the rise in U.S. homicides? Fact checking. The crime wave is in quotation marks. The crime wave narrative police are pushing. Homicides were up across the United States in 2020 and appeared to be primarily driven by rising gun violence, but other crimes fell. And see, that's the thing, right? So we're getting a lot of people saying, oh, it's BLM protests. Oh, defund the police is not working. Defund the police is actually hurting communities. First of all, ain't no police force in this area, in this state, been defunded. Let me just for those right-wing extremists, those terrorists who watch my live stream here and there, no police force has been defunded in South Carolina. Not a one. Not as a result of public outcry, not as a result of protests. Not one single police department has been defunded. So y'all gonna have to blame this uptick on some other bullshit. Right? It ain't because nobody out here with a sign that says defund the police. So you can chill with that part, right? So yeah, and then Justin, you said the crime wave narrative also an interesting myth that took hold during the height of the opioid epidemic. That too, right? Right? Is this behind the paywall? Yeah, they put it behind the paywall, so I'm not gonna go for. But yeah, so I want to hear the framing. I want to talk about gun violence. We know we have an issue with guns in this area. We know we do, right? We know we have more guns than people in this country. So we need to talk about what kind of violence, gun violence. Okay, whose guns? Where are these guns coming from? So on and so forth. I'm gonna close this one out. I'm gonna go back here, and I'm going to I started pulling clips of, like, you know, Merrick Garland when the DOJ decided to start pursuing domestic terrorism, because that's another thing, right? So and what the article said, what the Vox article said, and up here, right here. Meanwhile, a total of 12 mass shootings from coast to coast left 11 dead, and this is just in a shorter time. So we've got mass shootings too, right? We've seen a number of mass shootings since the pandemic. In the pandemic, right? All right. And so I want to know, there's this. Now I'm not gonna watch that Washington Post piece. I wanted to, let me see. Okay, this was published again. Another one from the Guardian. This was published on July 9th, again behind the paywall, but just look at the headline, okay? Pandemic gun violence surge was not linked to a rise in gun sales, one study finds, right? All right. Research suggests looking at the role of job loss, economic change, closure of schools and community organizations, and civil unrest. Again, it's a broad issue, so we can't allow Police Chief Reynolds to flatten the issue, to narrow the issue, when the issue has so much more to it. There's so many more contours. There's so many more just elements that aren't being taken. We can't take the police chief just like, I expect the police chief to be a leader, to be a leading voice, to lead a press junket. I expect that. But sometimes when I hear Police Chief Reynolds try to offer up analysis that's not really backed by any numbers, that's not really backed by any type of, we don't know where you're pulling these stats from. You're not citing your sources, so to speak, right? This is just something I pulled up just to read about what was going on in other areas. I'm gonna close that out, right? And so, and I got a book here that I want to read from. So this is the other thing too. Like I'm trying to find. I've been perplexed. Shout out to what's her name? I'm gonna call you L Cool J. Shout out to L who gave me a bomb ass abolition bundle. This is I'm finally getting to it. I'm putting down the romance novels and getting back into the study. And so this is Mark Lamont's Hill, We Still Here, Pandemic, Policing, Protests, and Possibility. We're gonna get into this, and I did dog ear a couple of places. This is a real quick read. You can kill this in like 3-4 hours, less than that. I didn't mean to say kill. But there's a chapter on whose violence that I want to pull from. I've dog-eared some pages, so we're going to get to that. Some other analysis that's important to apply, not just Google searches, right? So at least 430 people killed and 915 shootings across the U.S. in the past week. This was published on July 25th. All right, so relatively recent. July 25th from the Slate. Okay, let's scroll down. Let me enhance this a little bit. All right. There were at least 915 shooting incidents that killed at least 430 people and left at least 1,007 wounded between Saturday, July 17th and Friday, July 23rd. The other thing why it's important to bring in all these national statistics, y'all, to a Charleston live stream is because it's important to bring this in, is because there's also going to be a push by the police to make this hyper local, to suggest that what's happening here, connected to this protest and connected to this memo sent out by the ACLU, and there's going to be this effort to really connect what we're seeing and divorce it from these national trends, right? And we being that, and what it's not comforting, but in a weird way, it's kind of comforting to know that we're not in this by ourselves. If that makes any sense. We understand that this has to be brought on by some things that's impacting us nationally. This can't be just a local issue. I believe our solutions need to reflect a local perspective, right, and local values and local customs. I think our solutions should definitely reflect what the leaders on the ground are recommending. But the problem is not just us. Charleston is not alone in this. And I really want people to understand that. Again, that may not be comforting to some, but for me, it helps me out. Okay, this is a broader problem. Okay, a lot of people are dealing with this. Okay, this might be related to the pandemic. That's what it's telling me, right? And so, again, to Chris's point about that whole crime wave narrative, we have to, this ain't really a crime wave. This is something else. This is the world. I feel like even with the climate crisis, I feel like it's we're seeing like Carlton County just had a road collapse yesterday. It looked devastating. We saw what's happening in China. We saw what happened in New York subways. We see what's happening in Oregon. We're seeing what's happening with these wildfires in California. We're seeing what's happening in Germany, right? So the climate crisis too. I feel like feel like Mother Earth is like saying, y'all gotta ease up. Y'all gotta let up. Something's just not sustainable, and what's not sustainable largely is we're in late stage capitalism, right? We've been shitty stewards of our planet, right? And I think chickens are coming home to roost in so many devastating ways that we no longer can afford to ignore. I don't know if that helped anyone, but that's just how I was thinking. All right, so let me continue to read this a little bit. That's a staggering number. 915 shootings, resulting in 430 people left dead, and at least just over 1,000 people wounded between Saturday the 17th and Friday the 23rd. That translates into a shooting every 12 minutes, according to the data from the Gun Violence Archive. As a part of an effort to illustrate the increase in violence that is taking place throughout the United States, ABC News partnered with the Gun Violence Archive and its stations and affiliates around the country to show how much of the country has been affected. And this is the hyperlink. So if you want to go back to the Slate article, go find it. You can go ahead and click on those links. Yeah. This is not behind a paywall, so you can go ahead and read this. I'm gonna bounce out of the Slate article. I want to get to the front page of our paper. Oh, this is another Washington Post. This is some other coverage. 2020 was the deadliest gun violence year in decades. So far, 2021 is worse, right? Again, this is guns. So what you're not hearing from a lot of people like the CVB and all those, they're not going to talk about gun ownership because they know that's going to anger their conservative base, who are huge proponents of the Second Amendment. And I mean, so are a lot of black people, but it's a trigger for some conservatives when you talk about guns. And that's what Chief Reynolds is not talking about. He's talking about the violence, but he's not talking about the guns. And he's not talking about, I don't hear Chief Reynolds. I know Mount Pleasant did some gun turning programs and stuff. I'm not hearing Chief Reynolds lift up any type of, we got to get the guns off the street. He talked about gangs and people. He ain't talk about guns. He ain't talk about getting the guns off the street. He ain't say that. He'll implicate gangs in a certain sector of a certain segment of our population. The shootings have come at a relentless pace. Gun violence this year has cut through celebrations and funerals, places of work, houses of worship. It has taken lives at grocery stores and fast food drive-through lanes. And most of all, it has unfolded on city streets and in family homes, away from cameras, far from the national spotlight. By almost every measure in 2021 2021 has already been a terrible year for gun violence. Many fear it will get worse. Last weekend alone, more than 120 people died in shootings, according to the Gun Violence Archive. All right, so they also are referencing the Gun Violence Archive that the Slate article was referencing, right? With 3 especially dangerous incidents in Austin, Chicago, and Savannah, Georgia, leaving 2 dead and at least 30 injured. Through the first 5 months of 2021, gunfire killed more than 8,100 people in the United States and 54 lives lost per day, according to the Washington Post analysis of data from the Gun Violence Archive, right? Staggering said, hey, B-Man, you back? B-Man. Oh, let me see. Somebody's pointing up the same facade. Let me see. On Twitch over here. Same facade, you said, what worries me is that Biden was behind the national effort to increase police funding. You know that. And also had talking points about crime waves, which is all coming at the end of the pandemic assistance. Hello. So it's probably about to get bad nationally, both gun violence and police violence in response. Absolutely. They're going to use the gun violence narrative to justify police violence. Exactly that. D. Bartlett agrees. Justin agrees. B-Man, you chime in. You says, to me, the main driver is economic stress and general despair, a reaction to the intensity of living in a pandemic with no end in sight. Exactly. So now you layer on the Delta variant, and now I'm back to wearing masks. I talked to somebody yesterday who said they had COVID, got vaccinated, got COVID early on, got vaccinated since, got COVID again, and is actually really sick, right? So I don't know what this variant is doing. I don't know what's going on. And it's scary. So you add on that extra layer of the Delta variant doing this thing, right? So great points being lifted up by B-Man. No end in sight. The climate crisis continually increasing, disaster capitalism that we're always witnessing, combined with more and more greed and tax evasion being exposed. And then you got Nancy Pelosi taking to the mic talking about, oh no, don't forgive student loan debt. Like, what? You crazy. I bet you see a tremendous drop in violence if you forgive student loans. Yep. No, not. I guess you're saying not at all. But some gun owners are very careless with how and where they keep. Absolutely. And you're not going to hear the police chief talk about that, right? Gun accountability, keeping your gun safe. I would argue that people would love to hear that. Hear those things lifted up. You never hear that from our police chief, right? It's easy to go after gangs, and we know gangs is just like a proxy for black people or brown people, right? And seeing the legal system, D. Bartlett, seeing the legal system fail all the time. Absolutely. Hey, AJ on Facebook, I didn't see you there. AJ on Facebook, increase gun availability and access, and there's a possibility of more gun violence taking place. That's the reality. Couldn't agree more. No one's talking about access to guns. And where are the Dems on this? Where are the Dems on this? What they say, Dems never miss opportunity to miss an opportunity. Where the Dems on this? Close that loophole. Make this a gun issue. Get creative with it. All right? You gotta resist the framing. You gotta resist the framing that the really easy, lazy analysis. You gotta resist it. You just have to. All right, hold on. I'm trying to pull up. I'm going to try to pull up, not my library. Oh, y'all see my library card and everything. All right, trying to pull up. Let me close that out. Something I downloaded this morning. I downloaded the front pages of, just the front page of the Post and Courier. Here we go. Okay. So this is the front page of today's Post and Courier. You know, usually when there's like breaking news at night, but I think they usually don't. Look at this foolishness. Y'all, I'm just tired. Just tired. That took up all that real estate. I'm Team Turtle now. I break for turtles, you know, turtle crossings. But here you go. Here's the story here, right? 5 wounded in shooting on the East Side housing complex. All right, let me real quick, because I don't have that much time. I had to bounce at 9 for sure. Let me read something from here that I thought was compelling. Again, this is from We Still Here, right? Written by Mark Lamont Hill. Shout out to my follower who gave me this with 4 other books from the Haymarket Books Abolition Bundle. So We Still Here, Pandemic, Policing, Protests, and Possibility, right? And so there's a chapter in here called Whose Violence? And there was something in here that was like, that jumped out at me, right? Hold on one second. I'm trying to find it. What was specific about it? Because in all of this distilling of violence too, police violence needs to be we need to remind ourselves that police is still out here killing folk too. So you can add that into your statistics, right? And according to this book, the number of people killed by police in the United States is quite stunning based on the latest data. And this book was published in 2020. Based on the latest data, police kill 33.5, so 33 and a half. Police killed 33.5 per 10 million people here. And in 2019, 1,999 civilians were killed by police officers, right? So when Luther Reynolds is out there talking about violence and death and things, we need to look at the police violence as well, right? What role does guns play in this conversation? This chapter on this part on guns was really good. So what role does guns play in this conversation? We live in a country that worships guns. From politics to popular culture, we're taught to view guns as the embodiment of our liberty. We are taught to see that the right to bear arms granted by the Second Amendment as the most powerful reflection and protection of democracy. We are taught to believe that an armed police force and an armed citizenry, which is usually the militias, right? White militias, armed citizenry are key to preserving peace, safety, and justice. But the impact of guns is not just symbolic or abstract. In the United States, more than 400 million guns are in circulation. That means that there are literally more guns than people in this country, right? Let me see if there was anything else in here that I wanted to include, because there's a lot going on. They talk about state violence a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna read this more. This is juicy. I almost got caught up. This is juicy. This is a must. This is real easy. Y'all can kill this in about 2, 3, 4 hours. Right? We still here. Haymarket Books. All right, go cop this. But this is really interesting. I'm gonna read the back of the book so you understand more of what's inside. In the most, excuse me, what? Oh, they use a funny font. In the midst of loss, death, and suffering, our charge is to figure out what freedom really means and how we take steps to get there. The uprisings of 2020 marks a new phase in the unfolding movement for Black lives. The brutal killings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor, and countless other injustices, large and small, lit the spark of the largest protest movement in United States history. Now, some folks don't call it a movement, but some people take issue with that word movement. And I kind of agree, because the racial reckoning that wasn't, right? All right, so in the United States, against racism and the politics of disposability that the COVID-19 pandemic lays bare, right? So in this urgent, incisive collection of new interviews, bookended by 2 new essays, Mark Lamont Hill critically examines the pre-existing conditions that led to this moment of upheaval, guiding us through both the perils and possibilities and helping us imagine an abolitionist future. Please go get this book, right? Reading assignments, yes, right. You know me. I'm very seldom. I might sound emotional, but very seldom am I saying things that I have not read, and most of your leaders should be reading too. All right. How these, and AJ, you asked the question on Facebook, how are these guns ending up in the streets? Guns in the United States are considered a birthright. Absolutely. So you're agreeing with the part I read about guns, right? Same Facade, you said, and the good majority of those 400 million guns are owned by 1/4 of the population. I hear you. Yeah, okay, you got that. Yeah. Cute turtle though. Yeah, I'm all for Turtle. I'm Ninja Turtles. Shout out. I'm Raphael gang. Growing up. So I want to kind of leave it there, and just again urge you all. Let me see if there's anything else, because it's too much. I don't have enough time. I talked a lot about the Facebook event, and I kind of took a lot of time. But I also want you to understand too that this uptick in violence is going to be used to justify the removal of Black bodies from their homes off the peninsula, right? So you're also going to see these statistics here locally be used to further bring about more gentrification, more displacement of Black people. So just get ready for that, right? So, and remember, police don't prevent shit. Police don't prevent crime. So if they're making arguments that they need to increase policing, that's a flawed argument, because y'all have had increased funding and more resources, more access. Your power has not been challenged. There's not one citizen-led governing body that controls the police or influences any policies around police, around their pay, around holding them to account when they do something wrong, like use of force. Oh, I want to bring this up. Oh, this is what's going to happen. This is a very crude example, but this happened in Philly yesterday, I believe. Philadelphia SEPTA security. Yep. Yeah, it was the Market and Frankfurt line. Shout out my old stomping grounds. Let me see. That wasn't it. But it was security guard. I should just go to, here we go. Let me see. So this is trigger warning. This is really violent footage. Really violent footage of a security guard punching a SEPTA. SEPTA is their Carter, is Philly's Carter, right? So let me play this.
SEPTA says the security guard will not be returning to work after a video shows him punching a man repeatedly at the Arrett Transportation Center in the city's Frankfurt section. The transit agency now saying that this man works for Allied Universal, providing security at the station. The
horrible.
Incident happened yesterday, and a preliminary investigation finds the guard and a 51-year-old man got into some type of verbal argument that then escalated. According to SEPTA, the guard left the station before police arrived at the scene. The victim was rushed to the hospital and is recovering. Action News is working to find out what further action is now being taken in this case, and we'll have the very latest for you on Action News at 10 on PHL 17.
Okay. So that's the story, right? And then, so I'm gonna Google it because it's so then what happened after that? All right, Allied Security, Philadelphia, It News. So then what happened after that? Let me go to CBS. So that was brutal. That was brutal. It looked crazy. I'm not condoning nothing, right? I think that was shitty. I think what that dude did was despicable. But then you had clapback from who? You had clapback from right here. Let me blow it up. So violent act happens. Violent act happens, right? Oh, see. Okay. Why? Just go away. Shout out Uki. Oh, man. Shout out Yuki. Shout out Yuki. All right. I'm trying to read the story, though. What the fuck? How do you get it out of here? You can't close it or nothing. I'm trying to read the actual text behind the story. But basically what it's saying here is that the cops, the police union, came into the chat. Let me make it smaller. Maybe that helps. The police union into the chat, right? The transit police union says it's a bad idea. This further illustrates the need for more SEPTA police officers on patrol, not rogue security agents assaulting passengers and creating havoc. So now the transit police want to come in now and take over because this one guard acted up. So now you need more police in the on the L or on the Franklin, whatever. It's crazy, right? Yeah. Oh, Rajon, you said you missed the discussion on the yeah, catch it on the and I lost my feed for a second, Rajon. If you're watching, the feed went out, but it came back kind of quickly. So just go back to either if it's not the video you're watching, make sure it's the one just before it. But my point is that they'll use a violent incident to make an argument, say, hey, we need more police. All right, I'm gonna end with some other analysis. Another analysis. I'm gonna end with some reflection. I'm gonna come up with segments when I really get a really good production quality, like when I get like a bona fide studio. I'm going to I closed it. I'm going to damn it. I'm mad. I didn't mean to close out the news story. I had all queued up. I'm trying to find it. I'm sorry. Okay. It's not there. All right. Here we go. Perfect. All right. So I want to end with let me go back to the front page. This is the Post and Courier, right? Y'all know I'm using my library card. All right, I'm not telling y'all to do as I say, not as I do. I'm actually doing it. So this is the front page we just looked at, right? We talked about the violence that took place is at the bottom here, below the fold, the East Side housing, the projects, right? And then we have this story over here. So City Council is considering changes after rally and arrest, right? Proposals clarifying. Hold on, let me blow it up. I mean, can I make it bigger? All right, here it goes. I'm gonna have to read it over here. Rules being discussed by Charleston City Council may alter how spontaneous protests are handled by police, including those like the rally on July 27th that led to the arrest of 3 people, expressing outrage over a decision not to charge deputies involved in the Jamal Sutherland death. The 3 people, including leader of the Charleston Black Lives Matter, were arrested at nighttime protests when the crowd of 2 or 3 dozen in Marion Square in downtown Charleston became disruptive, according to authorities. Protesters gathered at the fountain near King Street in Calhoun at around 8 p.m. July 27th, expressed their outrage, right? This is what I was trying to say earlier before I was trying to look for it. I'm gonna start a segment called "Get Off My Lawn" because I know how I sound. But I also know what I'm talking about, right? So I'm about to piss off some young people. Yeah, and in regards to those who wanted to talk about the Facebook thing, the feedback was said in love and respect for Allie and her whole clique. All right, so y'all, so basically what you're gonna see, okay, let me just get this out. Protests need to happen. We need to be disruptive. We need to have protests, but the protests need to be planned. They need to be coordinated. Arrests will occur. That comes along with some of these types of protests. There are all kinds of protests you could coordinate. Protests need to happen. They're a necessary tool. They're not the only tool. When you organizing, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people showed up, all right, at night, you start out at Marion Square at the fountain, and then it looks like the group made its way across the street in front of the Walgreens, at least what we saw yesterday. I don't know who orchestrated that. I don't know who coordinated the move, but once you step off that curb, off the corner of King and Calhoun, you know that you're in the quote unquote no-fly zone, as so mandated by the Charleston Visitors Bureau, by the business district leaders, by lots and lots of money. Once you step off that corner of King and Calhoun, you're in a no-fly zone. We don't know what they have a term that they use colloquially. I know they do, and they have a certain response that they're allowed to enact, because they let you raise hell across the street. But you go anywhere near those storefronts, you go anywhere near those restaurants, anywhere near those businesses, you gonna catch it. And so what I have to, the change in what? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I got you. What we have to do, I think, what I really would like to see is more planning. I said this offline to someone yesterday. I've been saying this repeatedly. The arrests are almost inevitable. So I'm not mad as people got arrested. I'm mad that I think when you do this in the same location, either your goal is to get arrested and to get arrested roughly, maybe that's your goal for optically to be arrested. And if that's your goal, I can't really have that conversation with you, because that's not, to me, that shouldn't be the desired outcome, is just to make a scene. But if your goal is to actually call attention to this injustice, then, like I said, there was a whole press conference with Scarlett Wilson that was announced. Could have disrupted that. There are going to be places where Scarlett Wilson is going to be public. You could disrupt that. And I'm not talking about touching her. I'm talking about disrupting it. I'm talking about unfurling banners and signs, hopping in front of news cameras, right? You could have done that. You could have, maybe coordinated something around city council's next convening, county council's next convening. There's a number of things. Shoot, you could have taken to the streets, right? You could have taken to the streets. But you could have done it in a way that looked like more of a concerted effort. I just think that knowing that now the blowback is going to be more police vigilance, more policing of black bodies, more restrictions. We knew, and that's going to come regardless, no matter what protest you mount. Knowing that that's the outcome, how do we move in a way that doesn't just bring about more and more restrictions? How do we actually call attention to the actual injustice that we're protesting? So what do we do to actually, so if I'm an alien that plopped on this planet, do I know what you're talking about? What systems are we just going for this high traffic area for that? Like that I don't get. I don't get that. And I don't think that you should stay away from this area. I think you should use this area, but I think there should be some sort of coordinated effort that takes time. And they knew you were coming. They knew, regardless if you posted or not, they knew you were coming, but also, they knew you were coming. They're watching your stories and cops definitely infiltrated whatever Black Lives Matter is. Cops definitely infiltrated shit. The neo Confederates have infiltrated a lot of these movement spaces. I know that for a fact, right? So they've gotten information. They know your movements. So what do we do different? Is my point. Is what do we do different? I don't know if no one's saying anything, so I guess nobody agrees. But what do we do different now? Let me just continue to read this. So now the city council is going to start clapping back harder. So what do we do different? This is why I need y'all to talk. This is why I need y'all to chat. All right, charges against the detention deputies. Sutherland, 31 years old. I'm not going to recount that. Used pepper spray. They've been fired. It says here, Marcus McDonald, BLM, decried Wilson's decision, said that he needed to, that there needed to be immediate action by the federal government to deliver justice for Sutherland. Huh? Federal government? Okay. At the protest, he led chants of outrage and led protesters through the intersection, King and Calhoun Streets, obeying traffic signals. While he was attempting a fourth march through the intersection, a Charleston police officer tried to stop him. The officer explained later that McDonald had not obtained a permit. Yeah, that don't mean nothing. For a protest, it's a protest. And he had been warned about leaving the park, right? After McDonald entered the intersection, several more officers arrived and placed him under arrest. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too old. I'm trying to just process it in real time. They attempted to attach a list of demands to the building. Okay. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for more thoughtfulness. And then like I'm just looking for more thoughtfulness. And then like I always get this call or text, hey, this is happening. Hey, can you da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, do what? You do what? What are we doing? Why, like, oh, did they destroy his trombone? Yeah. I'm not really worried about his trombone though. I ain't gonna lie. I don't know. I just want our leaders to be a little bit more thoughtful. And I want us to just stop like doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. I want a different weapon, so to speak, from the arsenal. So when they create more restrictions, what is our tactic for going around? And I've been in groups where whenever I would lift up, hey, we need to make this consideration, it's really immediately met with like resistance, because I think people think that being thoughtful and being strategic, I think people take that as like resistance. Yeah, increase the tools in the toolkit. Because they're going to keep restricting access. And I think this is going to have an unintended consequence. And we just keep showing up where they expect us. And then, like, you know what I mean? They keep showing up where they expect us. And we're always going to be a nuisance. It don't matter. We were a nuisance when we did it for the first time. Like, so they're always going to call us a nuisance. I'm not worried about people saying, oh, you're inconveniencing us, you're stopping traffic. I'm not worried about that bullshit. They'll blame activists for everything. But at this point, it feels like that's all we're doing is being nuisances. and not really disruptors. And then for those who were incarcerated, I don't know if that was their first, second, third, I don't know. But once a person makes contact with the criminal justice system, I think that, and that's gonna happen. You won't get arrested a bunch of times. Like that ain't nothing. But there's something there are consequences to consider with that. I don't know. And then like what I get annoyed by, what I get annoyed by is like all these like white allies, like, oh, I'll bring this, I'll support you, I'm gonna come, okay, what should we do? Like y'all love showing up to like either document or watch and shit like that. But honestly, especially in this space, you never see white bodies flanking black bodies. Like you never see it. I don't need you on the sidelines. I need you actually protecting me in a barrier between police and this black body. And you never see that here. But it's like, I want to be close but not too close type of action. And then like the fallback is, oh, well, we listen to black people say that's what it, you never really a barrier between you and the black, but I have to ask for that whenever I'm at a rally. And that's another reason why I'm not out there. Like, y'all want to come and be the safety patrol. I don't need no fucking white safety patrol. I need white people to be a barrier between me and the cops. Yeah, I get you. I get you on Charlie. I get you. Like, yeah. But also protests are not like festival spaces either. Like, so like I get that that's a Marcus thing. It's his trombone. And I'm not justifying the anger. I'm just saying that's the problem, is that I don't even think you need a trombone when you're doing this stuff. I think you have to have an outcome. Evelyn said this to me one time when I was trying to plan something, and it's very basic, and I'm sure I heard it somewhere else, but it was so on point when she said it and timely. You got to figure out where you want to go. You got to figure out your destination. Start with where you want to go. Start where you want to go. Start with the outcome you want to have happen, and then work your way back on how to get there. So if the desired outcome is justice for Jamal, how do you get that? But if your outcome is, I need to be seen protesting this violence, if that's the outcome, I don't know. So I get it and I understand, like I'm not good, like, but we gotta evaluate leadership. You feel what I'm saying? Like, so leadership isn't just who got the megaphone. Leadership ain't just who got a pair of testicles. Leadership is more than that. Leadership is thought leadership and thoughtfulness. And maybe if you don't have the tenacity, or you don't have the, I don't know. A year later and we just still doing the same thing. Right. I see you, Rajon. Joy, you say do both. Bring legal action against the city for discriminating, discriminatory permit allowances. Go to city council. Right. Do both. But I don't know. I'll think on it. I have a better take on it. I had it there for a second and I lost it. But like I don't care. I don't care about the trombone because we're not there to make music. You know what I mean? And I know drums are part of protests and everything, but every action don't need to have that element of musicality. You feel me? Same facade, and I'm a dip. Same facade you said you saw during the Floyd protest last year. There were white people standing as barriers between cops and black people. That's what's up here in Charleston, but I haven't been as many spaces as you. Yeah, the bigger protests, maybe so. Yeah. And I did see white people jumping in to advocate for the body. You couldn't see what was happening with that melee. I did see white people rush in and say stop and don't. And it was a white person arrested with Marcus and I believe the other person from BLM. I just want to see more. Rajon, you say, let me listen to a father with children, someone mature. Rajon, you said, not a large enough numbers for it to even be like, that's the other part. Like, so the numbers now, 3 dozen is significant, But it ain't like that. So if you have that action with that size, there's some things to take into consideration there too. And being impactful, showing up in Marion Square with 20 people doesn't make you seem like a force to be reckoned with. Those 20 people could do work a city council meeting, school board meeting. Yeah. Begin with the end in mind and then reverse engineer it. That's all I'm saying. I got you. It's all love. This is critique. Ain't nobody. This is critique. And I want to get people understand this. I'm gonna say this. I gotta go. Black people have been publicly disagreeing with each other forever. So I don't, y'all know I've been critical of Marcus's leadership, right? So that's not a secret. It doesn't mean I don't that doesn't mean I don't respect him. It doesn't mean I don't like him. It means that I'm critical, right? I'm critical of what I'm seeing. And it's not just him, it's a bunch of people, especially the white foolishness, right? So, but just get that. So, why she always, Black people have been publicly disagreeing with each other forever. There's classic beefs you can pull out there. You know what I mean? Booker T. Washington, Ida B. Wells, right? All right. Martin and Malcolm at one point, right? Those are just two of the hot ones. Like, Black people been disagreeing with each other for a long time, for a long, long, long time. So get comfortable with that too, right? Critique helps people grow, improve, and not all conflict is negative and whatever. A conflict, I think, in some ways can be generative. So that's why I give it. And also, I'm not really. That's it. I'm in a different space too in my life right now. I'm not anti-protest. I will protest. I will go to another city and protest. Right? I'm all with it. I'm with the shits. Right? But I love protesting with people who are really, really like with it. Shout out to BYP 100 who came down during the primary, the Democratic primary, and they were that part of that gaggle of people who chased Pete Buttigieg to his car from the Fight for 15 protest over there on Lockwood, right? And I saw them. I first of all, they know their stuff. They're seasoned organizers, and then I saw them rally together, come up with a game plan, come up with a chant in real time, and then come up with an action. And it resulted in this amazingly like visual graphic of Pete Buttigieg being chased to his car, based on the information we were getting from Black Lives Matter in Indiana. Right? They were in my chat. I've seen coordination happen real time, make an impact. Cameras here, national cameras here. Let's go. To me, Black Lives Matter protests should be happening in front of cameras. You should be in front of every camera you can be in front of. You should be trying to get attention. You should be making it on national news coverage. You should be bringing attention to it. But protests happen. They happen. People get arrested. That's cool. But let's just be strategic. All right. Y'all take care. I might see you tomorrow. Probably won't. You'll definitely see me on Tuesday. All right. You'll definitely see me on Tuesday. I appreciate y'all for hanging in there with me. Sorry about the interruption. Don't know what happened, but we made it back. All right. I'll see y'all later. All right. Bye.